I thought I'd take a few moments to kind of bring everybody up to speed as to where this current test is and a couple of crashes I just recently had and maybe what the potential causes are. So hopefully this will add kind of to a knowledge database. That's kind of like what the intention of the video is. Um, Okay, so to get started, you can kind of take a look at, again, the amount of times I've played the game. You can see we're approaching 50. Um, from the first crash that I had, which was moving the power pylons, I really didn't see anything else. Everything else was really, really solid. And then I come up with a UI crash. There's not a lot of information I can get out of the buff out log, which really um, kind of helps me to zero in as to what the problem specifically was. Had it not been for the fact that I actually don't know the reasoning behind it, but I do know that things like this can cause a crash. So, what I just kind of give a little background, what I believe Bethesda did, and the reason the games seem to be kind of hardwired together or just kind of rigged up, is I think the first problem was by doing all these tests is that you had a lot of different people which were developing different little like quests or certain things for the game, but you lacked an overall quality of life tie-in or Q&A tie-in to where they took everything that was put in the game and said, okay, how do these different elements relate to each other? How do these different quests relate to each other? Whether there's going to be a problem, whether they tried to take some functionality that was meant for one thing and apply it to something else, which would make sense because they do have a tendency to do things like that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a design flaw. It's an oversimplification of something that needed more, not necessarily parameters, but needed more thinking. For example, like you could have a magic effect, and that could go to a variety of games, and it could go to a variety of stats. So something as simple as a magic effect that could point to different conditionals or different variables within an an ESP record, which to me is kind of an IFF format for the record. But so they kind of jury rig all this stuff up. All right. So that being said, you can actually see where it's a UI message. I'm assuming this is UI message crash, UI message data. Okay, so what happened in that particular instance was, which is this instance here, was I was in a mod, or I was in a world space from a mod that was called Somber Mountain. And at the end of that quest, you need to clear some debris, and they ask you to stand back away from the debris. The debris is cleared by accessing a holotape in your Pip-Boy. So you have a UI up. Your Pip-Boy is up. So when I fired that off, I was actually not close enough to be killed by it, but I was close enough to be knocked down. That knocked me out of the UI. So for whatever reason, whether that's an inherent game, an engine bug, or whether a mod doesn't take something into account, I'm not really sure. It was just the Pip-Boy. So it literally knocked me out of the Pip-Boy, but it didn't reset the UI. So when I go in to save the game, I went to click escape, it showed that save was not available, which usually means you're still in your Pip-Boy. And I think the reason they did that is because, to me, it's an unaccounted for error that they could work around with the existing framework, the existing engine framework. So instead of fixing it, they probably spent most of their time trying to do a workaround rather than sending it back to the coding department and said, okay, let's clean this up. Okay, so that was definitely a UI crash. It instantly went to and what I did was, I believe when I fast traveled or something which tried to save the game, it instantly crashed. That was instant. I'm trying to think. I don't think I saved it because I couldn't save it. But I do believe I went to fast travel because I think I went to get back into the vehicle, which takes you out of that location back to the Commonwealth. And that was an instant crash. So that was, I believe, that problem. And like I say, I think it's got to be within the engine or a mod that when those particular circumstances, or let's say the animation hit, which knocked me down, didn't consider that I was in an interface, didn't re-show the interface, but somehow the data still thought I was there, and then of course that equaled a crash, which is why I believe Bethesda won't allow you to save in the Pip-Boy because it crashes. It's something they discovered, and they just did a workaround by disabling it. Okay, the next one here is was interesting. I'm not sure what caused this, but I'm going to tell you how I'm going to try and debug it. So if I bring this up and I take a look at, let's just pull out just some specific buff out information. It shows like I've got pathing here. I've got resource creator, which comes up twice. Okay, so basically what I was doing was fast traveling from Sanctuary to Jamaica Plains. Now, Jamaica Plains, I used raise my settlement to eliminate all the excess stuff. I used transfer settlements to bring in a settlement that I'm currently working on, just kind of building it. They're just like base settlements, and I try to leave enough room for people to add stuff to if they want, but still make it functional. And just kind of okay. Okay, so from what I can see from buff out, these are the two particular errors I had, right? 3D Resource Creator and Pathing Cell. So let's move this over here. So if we take a look at the actual buff out log, it looks like there's a cell reference call. There's combine refs. And then you'll take a look at here's PRP showing up. Now I haven't had any problems with this. This is the first time I've seen this, and I have been to Jamaica Plains before. I believe I've been here at least 2 or 3 times after it was raised and after it was built using transfer settlements. And of course we have Flashy coming up. So again, this is the world space, so I don't think it's necessarily his mod or anything like that, but I'll tell you what I think it is. I think somehow it's related to PRP. And I'll show you why in a second, because it comes up a lot. All right, so I could go in and check the form ID to see if, which, tie it back to, let's say, edit. I will do that in a second. But to see exactly what it's related to. So what I thought I would do is look up this error called Resource Creator, because I'm not really sure what that is. So let's take a look at what buff out's going to show for that. So if you go over here and take a look, Resource Creator says an uncommon crash caused by extracting BA2 archives with MO2 extractor. I don't use Mod Organizer 2. I've never extracted anything with it. So I know that's not the case because everything I put in the game is pretty much downloaded from a website like the Nexus, so generally a Nexus. So I don't really, there's nothing that I've put in there that I could figure out. Or something that I could say cause and effect, and the cause would be something that I extracted. So it says if you haven't used Mod Organizer Extractor and you're getting this crash, it's likely that one of your installed mods has corrupted, broken, loose files. Okay, so that I might be able to work with. So I was actually downloading mods, and I noticed that there was a mod where the noise was changed on the terrain. Let's go down here to the bottom here and take a look, which is this right here. So these two files here were actually installed, and they were installed here. They were installed right here. Now, again, I haven't had any problems at all with this. I've been to Jamaica Plains before. And I've been running around. You can actually see that from the time this is installed. Here's a 3-hour playthrough, 1 hour, 4 minutes. Now, this is where I would actually try going back to Jamaica Plains. So these right here, these little short times where I did a game save and then exited out, these were actually where I would go to Jamaica Plains, test something out. I did it 3 times, and it's fine. So so back to the Buffalo thing. So if we're talking about a pathing problem, the only thing that would have been pathing at that time would have been NPCs. So NPCs would path. And there was, let's see if we can find path in here. Okay, so see, you have pathing lookup data. So that's part of the actual stack itself. So the only thing, I thought, okay, the only thing that was there was actually a, not a merchant, but one of the dudes that kind of shares resources between settlements. I forget what they're called right at the moment, but there was one of those guys with a pack Brahmin, and he was moving to the next settlement. And of course, you have the settlers, which are actually, the cell was being loaded when it crashed. So you have NPCs trying to be placed. I don't think it's necessarily a pathing issue, although it could be. So I'm like, okay, the only thing that I changed would have been this right here. This is a loose file, because it does mention loose files over here. So you can see it has broken or loose files. So I don't know if a particular condition popped up or not. I'm not sure. Or simply the loose file is not in the proper size or format for what PRP, the pre-combined repair pack, is looking for. Because I do know when I regened LOD, I regened it with a certain format. So this is the first time I actually got this crash. So if I go and I take a look at this, let me see. We'll do it like this. And I've disabled the files, so you can actually see where the file names have been disabled. So therefore, they're not going to load. Normally, I would use show files, but I don't have it in this menu option just yet. I could type it in, but we'll just roll with what we have here. So I did disable it. So what I'm going to do is and I've already come back 3 times and verify that it doesn't crash. It even right after I got this particular crash, I loaded back up and then fast traveled to Jamaica Plains. It did not crash. So I disabled these, and I'm going to see if maybe that is the problem, because the actual format of the data, maybe it's width and height. I'm not sure what it's looking for. I don't know if maybe it broke it because of that reason, and because it basically was trying to generate a 3D resource. So I'm guessing it's taking a mesh and somehow wrapping something around it. It could be PRP related, because when I installed PRP in the previous playthrough, I did it towards the end of that playthrough. So I'd already been to Jamaica Plains, and I usually don't go back to settlements unless there's a problem. So I wouldn't. There is a possibility that it would have happened in a prior playthrough, and I just didn't notice it. But okay, so that's where I'm at now, and these are what these 2 crashes relate to, just to kind of add to a knowledge base. But other than that, everything seems to be going okay. So I'm going to keep going with this test, and then I'll post back if anything new pops up.